Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the Imago Nutrition Podcast. My name is Mark, and this is the podcast where we answer your questions and give you practical nutrition strategies to help you and your family flourish. And today's an exciting day because we are launching a new series called Bite Sized. And so these are going to be a series of episodes where we summarize things like nutrition research, nutrition topics, and answer questions quickly so you can learn something new, build new habits, and get on with your day. And so today's topic is an interesting one. It's on the topic of distracted eating. And so by way of backdrop, there was a brand new study that released in January of 2025 entitled Watching Television While Eating Increases Food Intake, a systematic review and meta-analysis of experimental studies. If you want to look this up for yourself, I highly recommend you do. You can simply Google PMID 39796600. As I mentioned, this is a study released in January of this year in Nutrients, which is an international peer-reviewed open access journal on human nutrition. It's also a meta-analysis and a systematic review. And a meta-analysis is quite simply a study of studies. You should also know that this is at the top of what we call the hierarchy of scientific evidence. And so as evidence-based practitioners, this is among the highest form of scientific evidence that we use to establish sound practice. This particular meta-analysis looked at 23 studies, and here is its conclusions. Quote, "The review showed that television viewing increases food intake, especially at the next meal. This effect was evident across both children and adults. This review highlights how television viewing impacts intake and offers potential avenues for intervention based on our findings." Now, to me, the most fascinating facet of this research was that the largest effect was not on the meal being consumed while distracted, but on the next meal. Okay. So if you're watching television, eating breakfast, it's not that your largest impact of caloric intake was on that meal, it would be on the next meal. Okay. Now, one of my favorite researchers is a guy by the name of Menno Henselmans. He's my favorite Dutch researcher. Yes, I have a favorite Dutch researcher. And on this, he says, quote, "Many people have the idea that their appetite is influenced primarily by their energy intake. It's not. Hunger is a profoundly psychological sensation," end quote. And so what's happening here is when our brain is focused on something else, like a television or like a phone, yes, this has implications for your phone as well, our brain is not as receptive to what we call satiety signals, or the signals being sent to your brain that you are full and you don't need to continue eating. Okay, so when our brains are focused on something else other than eating, our brain is less receptive to these satiety signals. And then what this research showed is that we end up being hungrier and then consuming even more calories in the next meal. Okay, so this begins to get at this powerful concept of what we call mindful eating. Now, not to be confused with intuitive eating, which is a bit of a trend right now, and I have thoughts about the intuitive eating movement. But what we talk about here at Imago Nutrition is mindful eating. And there are many strategies that you can deploy to eat more mindfully and not being distracted by screens, whether it be television or phone, is one of those powerful techniques. A couple other techniques include eating very slowly, okay, eating one bite at a time, putting utensils down between bites, drinking water before a meal, in between every bite at a meal, drinking water after a meal, taking at least 20 minutes to finish a meal, waiting 20 minutes before thinking about having seconds, right? And on and on and on it goes. These techniques are ways in which you can begin to ensure that your brain is being more mindful of these satiety signals so that you don't over consume your calories. And so bottom line, If you want to make your controlling your caloric intake a little easier, and in America, north of 70%, almost 75% of Americans are overweight, we have a huge problem controlling our caloric intake. And one of the powerful mindful eating techniques you can deploy is by not eating distracted. Turn the TV off, turn the phone off, put the book down, and focus on your food. All right. I hope that's been helpful. As always, if we could help you further, you can reach out to us. You can head over to our website, Imago Nutrition. That's IMAGO nutrition.com. And we would love it if you subscribe to the podcast. We'll be doing more of these bite-sized episodes coming up. Drop us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Share with a friend. We'd love to help as many people as possible. If you are on social media, you can follow us across all major social media platforms at Imago Nutrition. Again, that's IMAGO Nutrition. And as always, we'd like to thank Happy Pill the band for our theme song, Thinkin Bout Food. We'll see you next time.